What is up, everybody? Welcome back. It has been a little bit, I know, but we're here. We're back. We've got a great video for you today. As always, when it comes to UFC, I'm joined by my buddy Kai, our resident UFC go-to guy. We've got a great video today. We're previewing UFC 300, the big main event that we've all been waiting months for. It is now finally time. There's a lot of good fights on here, really top to bottom. Impressive prelims, impressive early prelims, and a very, very impressive main card. I'm sure it will not disappoint, but without further ado, let us get straight into this video. Before we start, guys, remember to like, subscribe, comment what you want to see more of down below. I'll probably say it again at the end of the video, but I'm saying it again now. So let's get straight into this because, boy, do we have a stacked card. Kai, buddy, how are you doing? How have you been? It's been a while, but we are
Yeah,
back to talk some UFC today.
yeah, I'm great. I'm excited. Excited for this card, honestly. Well, like honestly, I've never been excited for a full card in a while, so this one shows real promise for me.
For sure. I don't know the last time I looked at like early prelims and prelims and been like, damn, like I would actually sit at my
Yeah.
TV and watch it before the main card. And, I'm probably a casual for that. I get that. But still, that's just how I personally feel. Now let's take a look at this card because like I said, a lot of depth to it, a lot of quality fights throughout. We start at the very bottom of the early prelims. We've got uh Figueredo, I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. Figueredo against Cody Garbrandt. I probably butchered both those last names. Kai, please correct me if I get a name wrong.
It's all
Um,
good, man.
but I turn to you for these early prelims fight, man. What exactly is your just an initial breakdown? And we don't have to go too in depth on these earlier fights, but just at first glance, what about these two fights stands out to you? Who should we be looking for to win?
Man, these two fights. I mean, honestly, Jim Miller, Gabrandt, Green, and Figueroa. These guys I'm not too familiar with, but I mean, just because I'll be watching the prelims this time around, I'm excited to see, as a first time watch for these guys, what they'll do. Um, I'm seeing a lot of I'm seeing Brazil versus United States here, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know what to say about these fights. Sadly, as yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick a winner, I'm probably gonna go. I would probably just pick favorites here. When we're this early in the car, I mean, guy at number 80 definitely has something to fight for. Haven't heard much from Cody recently. Everything I've heard from all the lead up and the inside info that we hear leading up to the fight is not like exactly hugely positive. It just seems like you know it's gonna go to the guy who's favored, and that's expected. As far as the Jim Miller fight goes, he is coming off a win. I'm pretty sure if I'm not wrong, he's been around for 100, 200, and now UFC 302, fighting Bobby Green. I'm actually gonna go Jim Miller here. The odds are pretty close. It's only minus 205. I mean, which isn't great, but only plus 170 on the other end. I think I'm going personally Miller. I think he's coming off a win. Showed that he still has stuff left in the tank, even though that he's pretty old, fighter wise. That's just me though. Do you have any thoughts about this one?
about these fights, honestly, I'd have to go back and look at where these fighters are coming off of, and where they've struggled. But I mean, for me, it's kind of up in the air. I don't like to bet. For me, I don't like to put money on prelims just because
Yeah,
it could
agreed.
go either way, and some fighters are just so fresh that you don't know who's gonna take what, even though someone might be favored to win. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, as far as the next two, my personal picks are Andrade and Turner. Even money on the Andrade one. This is just a gut feeling. I just like, from what I've seen recently, some highlights stuff. Not exactly any cutting in depth analysis. I'm just gonna be straight up with it though. I like what I see in the highlights. I'd like something about it. I just like the even odds. That's my pick. Ranked higher for whatever that's worth. Not that it's worth that much. And then I'm probably gonna take Turner too. What
Right.
about you? And we'll just kind of skim through these early prelims because we just don't have much to say. So between those two, who are your two picks?
I'd have to say Andrade as well. I mean, just from the photo alone, she looks like a beast. But I'm sure if I go back and watch the highlights, I mean, honestly, it comes down for me, who has more fights under their belt because experience is a big thing.
Exactly.
For Turner, I'd probably go Turner as well. I'll be real.
Yeah, and then so that'll take us into the actual prelims. And I get it, the early prelims, the analysis is boring, but that's for a lot more in-depth talk. And we're just on here to give a light preview. This is not the extreme in-depth analysis that you're looking for before 300. But as we get further, the analysis goes further too. Here's some interesting fights in a featherweight bout. We got Sadiq Youssef against Diego Lopez. Odds are pretty close here. Me personally, I'm going Sadiq. I did go back and look at some highlights. I mean, I like what I saw. Lopez looks like an up and comer. I get it, but I'm going with Yusuf here. And then Holly Holm. This was a real surprise to see. I am not even sure what's gonna go on here because I feel like I have not heard this name in a while. I don't know. Maybe I'm just mega casual for that, but me personally, I've not heard the whole name in a while. I don't even have a pick for that fight because I'm not too familiar with either of these. What are your thoughts on these fights up here?
For Sadiq versus Lopez, I mean, I have seen some highlights of Sadiq, and I have to say he's a very aggressive fighter. So I mean, I have to go Sadiq. Lopez, he looks a little fresh, greeny rookie, but he could surprise. Now the Holly Holm fight, that is one that I did not expect to see because it's been a while since I've heard her name, like you said, and I mean, Kayla Harrison, Holly Holm is 42, Kayla's 33. Weight, I mean, age
Right.
does is a huge
You got to
factor.
go with a little bit fresher legs here on this one, right?
Exactly.
I just find it hard to believe at 42, but I could be wrong.
I'm her conditioning is definitely not what it used to be. I don't know if she can definitely survive the 3 rounds, but compared to how Kayla's probably going to operate, not to the same capacity. So, but she could surprise, and she does. She is a good fighter from back in the day, but nowadays it'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, agreed. And then this fight, I think, is probably going to be one of the better ones on the card. Certainly has like more storyline behind it, and that's Aljo going against Calvin Qatar or Cater. I mean, maybe I'm butchering it. Aljo not even favored. I mean, the last time we saw him was the brutal, O'Malley fight. He lost his title. I haven't seen too much of Calvin, but this just feels like such an interesting point in Aljo's career. It's one of those I mean, every fight is a must-win fight, but this has just so much extra added pressure because if he even like hopes to have a sliver of a chance at getting back to that title, after Marab goes, and if Marab loses after the mega fight against Tuporia, whatever, if he even hopes to be in that conversation down the line, he has to win this. You can't lose two in a row. We've seen it with guys like Volk. He goes out there, loses to Islam, loses his title. Now he's gonna, we see him unfortunately going down that spiral, but that's a topic for another day. This is a must win to me. I don't know if I have the complete faith in him to win. I didn't, obviously didn't love what saw against O'Malley, but we know his ground ability. I think the striking ability is there a little more than he gets credit for sometimes. I'm going to put my faith in Aljo. I think he's going to keep his, regaining his title hopes. I think he's going to keep those hopes alive. And I think he's going to come out on top versus Calvin. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, I have to agree. I mean, I haven't seen Qatar fight a lot, but Aljo, as much as everyone batches him and all that, he's not a bad fighter. He's a good fighter, but I do agree. If he loses this fight, it's going to be a lot harder for him to come back and try to reclaim that title. But if he does win this fight, I believe he, will be looked at more for, a title shot. But if he loses this one, it's going to be hard to say. But it's really up in the air. But I do think Aljo will take. I mean, I'm picking Aljo even though he's not
Yeah.
favored. I kind of find it kind of funny he's not favored, but I mean, yeah, I'm definitely
It could
taking
just, I
Aljo on
mean,
this.
part of it is coming off a loss. It's been a while, and yeah, it might just be that point in his career.
True, very true.
I don't know that. I mean, in terms of the title shot, like I think even if he wins this, I don't think it's win this and you get a title shot, right? Like I know by no means do I think
Yeah,
this is like a title eliminator down the line. Um, but I think you would have to fight probably one more after this. But I'm saying you can't lose this. You got to win this. You got to you got to put a win streak together if you want to get your hopes back of getting to another title fight, likely against O'Malley because I just don't see him going anywhere in this division anytime soon. So must win for Aljo, but I'm gonna put my faith in him. I'm gonna take him even at like we said, he's not favored. If I scroll up now, Jiri Prochaka against Alexander Rakic. Good fight again. Jiri, the last time we saw him was a close. It felt like a close loss to Pereira, even though he got knocked out. So he lost the title. He remains near the top of contention. I think honestly, I'm not quite sure about that light heavyweight division. I do have rankings pulled up, but I won't switch off the screen for now. As far as that light heavyweight goes, though, I mean, Ankalev is the only guy I can think of who's probably getting a title fight before Jiri gets a rematch, other than Jamahal Hill. If Pereira wins, I feel like Ankalev is probably next. Other than Ankalev, though, Rakic and Prochaka are fighting each other. And again, sorry if I'm butchering these names, but so that's a lot of names in that top five that are getting dealt with. Pretty much, actually, the entire top five, other than I'm not even gonna bother pronouncing that. Sorry again, but pretty much the whole top five of light heavyweight is fighting today. Four of the top five. I don't see Walker getting another fight, so Ankalev is probably next. And then if Jerry wins, he could be in line too, down the line to reclaim that title. So big fight for him. Again, not favored, but I am gonna rock with him. I thought he was doing good in the Pereira fight. He got caught, but he was landing some shots, and he was definitely hanging in there. What are your thoughts on this fight, and who do you have winning, Kai?
This one, I mean, it's number 2 versus number 5. I don't know. I want to put my faith in Jiri, but Alexander, very very good looking fighter. But I might run with Jiri on this one, just solely that he's number two alone. But that he could get swept off his feet, and that could be he could go lower. But honestly, for that one, I'm gonna roll Jiri.
That's true. I mean, we'll see. I have my faith in him too. He looks like a good fighter. There's nothing I see about him that just blatantly throws me off and makes me worried. I think he's gonna surprise people, and I think he's gonna put his name back in title contention down the line. But now we move to the main card of this UFC 300 event, and what was surprising to a lot of people is that this Bo Nickel fight got put on the main card. I think you look at these prelims, you look at these two right here, right, with Aljo and Jiri. Either of those, I feel like definitely was qualified to get put on that last spot of the main card. Me personally, I'm probably putting the Jiri fight as that last one on there. But no, they go Bo Nickel, an intriguing prospect. He's probably their most hyped up, one of their most hyped up prospects right now. These are huge. These odds are like actually huge. I think it's top 5 ever, if not the highest ever, in a match like this. And Bo has been heavily favored against all his opponents. We know he's dynamic on the ground. He's shown a little bit of striking ability, but I think he's gonna have to show a lot more if he wants to make an impression here. And the middleweight is stacked, and you can see this is a middleweight bout.
Yeah.
As far as the rankings go, like he has not even cracked the rankings yet. But if we look at middleweight, there's literally viable contenders all the way down 1 through 7. And let me pull it up real quick because we just have to spend a minute talking about what this stacked middleweight division looks like right now. If we look at middleweight, Dricus is the champ, right? Sean's not even getting a rematch right now, and even though that's what fans want. Izzy is probably next in line. They've talked about that for being at UFC Perth in Australia. Is Adesanya versus Dricus? I don't think that is going to happen, but we'll see. That would be a really good fight. Whitaker is facing Chimaev for what's probably the next in line fight for the title after this Izzy fight. I think it definitely has possible title implications, and we all know what Khamzat is. We all know how dynamic this guy is.
Right.
Cannonier is likely facing Strickland next, and and that's with Costa too being a viable guy who's in the mix, even though he just lost to Whitaker in what was a great fight. So there's just so much talent in this division that Bo Nickel's gonna have to look really impressive in this fight. I don't even know if he should stay at middleweight because of how stacked it is, but he's gonna have to look impressive. He's gonna have to live up to those odds that he is getting put on.
Right.
And yeah, I'm gonna pick him to win because he's looked good so far and he's got the hype. So I'm gonna roll with the hype. Probably wouldn't even bet on this. There's no point at those odds at 1350. Maybe if you want to look at the rounds, like over under rounds. But what are your personal thoughts on this fight, Kai?
I mean, Bo Nickel 5-0 right now. A small record, but a very promising one at that.
Right.
For your UFC career. Cody Brundage 10-5. We'll have to see. Honestly, of course, I'm gonna pick Bo because I do think he should exhibit more striking this time around. But his ground game, from what I've seen, is really good. And
Yeah, that's his strong suit is the
yeah,
ground game.
when he gets to the ground, you're in his world, his territory. He has you. I'm gonna take Bo. So 6-0, hopefully by the end of this card. But it's always up for change. But yeah, the odds here are really insane. Is that
Yeah.
plus 600? I'm saying. I think.
No, it was 800.
Wow, 800 and
Yeah.
favorite negative 1350. That's insane.
So I wouldn't even touch that money line. I would take an over on rounds if they're going to be on the ground. I don't expect a quick finish. I would be really surprised. Not totally out of the picture, but I would be surprised. I'm probably taking I'm guessing in a 3-round bout, I'm probably going over 1.5 rounds.
Right.
Feels
Makes sense.
feels like the easy one. I'd probably go over 2.5 rounds. Actually, is what I mean to say. So that's for that fight, and then another great fight. Oliveira is back against Arman Sarukian in what Dana himself called a title eliminator. So I believe the winner of this will face Islam, probably not in June. It sounds like by all means that Islam's probably fighting Poirier, honestly, in what would be an interesting title fight in June. But this is probably like an October-November title fight against whoever is champ, most likely Islam. It's big. I mean, Oliveira, this is a quick route back to a title fight. We all thought he had a chance against Islam last time, just couldn't come out with it. He had a kid recently, and some Charles fans know the kind of streak that he went on after the last time he had a kid. It was a generational run, got him to where he is now outside of the Islam fight. Had another one. Let's see if he can piece together another run. I'm going with Charles again. He's not favored, and these odds are pretty skewed, but I think he's still got juice in him. I think he's got a title run left. I think he's going to win this, and we'll see what happens against Islam. I like his ground game. And I don't even mind his stand up either. I think he's gonna surprise people with his stand up. And I think he's gonna surprise his plus 170 odds because I think that's a little unfair to the guy. But what do you think about this guy?
No, I've been waiting to see Charles on a card ever since he lost to Islam for a while. But the fact that he's plus 170, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't take it a little bit as an insult, but it is like it's Charles Oliveira. His resume is impressive. He's a really good fighter, ground and stand up at that. Sarukian, I've seen fight, and I think he's going to be a bit of a challenge for Charles. But if I had to put my money on someone for sure, I'm going to say Charles. Now, that is interesting that Poirier is going against Islam, but I think if
Well, it's
Charles,
not nothing's confirmed. I just think that's what's been rumored because Gaethje's not available for a title shot. Poirier did just have an impressive win, and Islam was looking to fight in June, so stuff just kind of lines up.
right, right, Charles against Islam again, that's going to be interesting to see. I think, obviously after someone fights someone for the first time, the second time, the more seasoned, they know more, they might catch you, but we have seen where people fight against each other for a second time. Or is it third? Is it third or second?
I think this will be a second, and Charles is going to come in fresh too, especially if he wins this. He'll be showing that he still has it. He can prove that that last fight was a fluke. So I think there's a lot on the table here, and what should be a really good fight. And then above it, another really good fight.
Right?
And while I think the two, like the actual fight itself, is going to be great, I still don't understand the implications because Max would be first in line for the title fight against Ilya. Now that Volk lost, I think he was banking on Volk winning when he took the shot or when he took the fight against Gaethje. But at the end of the day, payday's a payday. I don't think this affects him. Obviously, it's a lightweight bout, so it's not going to affect him in terms of the featherweight standings. But it's gonna be a great fight. It's for the BMF belt. Mixed opinions on the validity of that belt for what it's
Right.
worth. Gaethje, another guy who would have had title implications with Islam, but the guys take the fight. Should be a great one. Close odds. I like Max a little better as a fighter. It's tough. I think I'm gonna roll with him anyways against Gaethje, but this could really go either way. I would not be surprised at all if Gaethje wins. Both guys excellent on their feet. I hope this. I'm guessing that this is just gonna be a stand and bang fight. Don't think we're gonna see a lot of ground stuff. And yeah, I'm gonna roll with Max. But what do you think?
For this one, yeah, I mean, from what I heard, a lot of people are confused about how this fight came to be,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because like they don't know what implications and like as you said, the legitimacy of the BMF belt. But here we are, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway. Honestly, for me, these odds are pretty accurate. I have to take Gaethje because I mean I I've seen him wrestle. I've seen him
Right. He's
stand
definitely.
up.
I'd say he's better all around, most likely.
His ground is impeccable. He has
Exactly.
impeccable ground game, background as a wrestler. Max, good in his feet. Not a terrible wrestler, but I mean, I'm gonna take
It's not
Gaethje.
his world.
Exactly, I'm gonna take Gaethje. You say you're gonna take Max.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take Max on this one. I'm just gonna put my faith in the guy. It might be a little biased because I like him more as a fighter, but
That's fair.
it is what it is. But this next fight is all you, Kai. Just take this away because I know this is your thing.
Oh man, I've been waiting to talk about this for a long time. This is the first uh woman Chinese against each other fight in the UFC. So Zhang Wei Li versus Yan Xiaonan. I think I'm saying that right. I mean, I don't even see the odds for this one, but for me, Zhang is a beast on her ground game. Insane. Oh my god, her ground game is insane. Her takedowns, her submissions. Yan, very good striker. I haven't seen too much ground game from Yan, so if Zhang takes her down, I think Zhang might get the submission or possible knockout because we have seen Zhang knock people out. So it's really up in the air. But I'm taking Zhang on this one. I just think better fighter, well all around, and Yan I'm just not too sure about. But yeah,
Yeah, it should be a good title fight. I'm certainly in for a fun one there. And then finally, we get to the main event of the night. Alex Pereira, the current light heavyweight title bout. There was, rumors. I think they actually had talked to Aspinall about getting a possible, heavyweight title fight, which would have been crazy. 3 belts in such a short time. But, for now, we don't get to see it. He actually gets to defend a belt, which is,
right.
in all honesty, something we have not seen the guy do a lot, which is the little bit of cause for concern that I have here. We didn't see him defend the middleweight belt when he had it. Adesanya obviously came back and took him in the instant rematch, took it from him. Now we're going to see him defend it here. Can he do that? If he can, then I think the talks with Aspinall should certainly be back on. And then, like we mentioned earlier, Mohamed Ankalaev will definitely be getting some talks and some looks at a title shot too. Either of those fights are super good, by the way. I think Ankalaev is next on the list because Pereira actually said he wants to defend it at UFC 301 in May. Don't think that'll happen, but we'll see. Um, but Hill certainly a viable contender. Obviously, he's the number one guy. Um, he's making sure people know that he has slept on in the weeks leading up to the fight. I think he can stand in there with people. He's got good timing. Um, and he'll be good on his feet too. But Hera's not a guy who's going to shoot for a lot of takedowns to get you on the ground. We know the his destructive ability of those leg kicks, and we know the ability to put you out in one punch, even if it doesn't always look pretty. So I'm gonna roll with Pereira. Obviously, he's favored here, and I just think he's on the trajectory, even at 36. And we know guys above 35 do not do great in title shots. I think Pereira is the exception to that, just because of how recently his UFC career started. Even though he's got a lot of experience under him, it's not a lot of experience in the UFC. And for some reason, I'm really hoping that is going to carry over into this fight, and push away that narrative of guys above 35 losing their title fights. So I'm going to take him over Hill. Should be a good fight. I think it's better than people are expecting. I know there's a lot of a bit of negative discourse around this maybe when the fight was first announced for the main card of 300, but I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to impress. I think I'm going to give Pereira round 3 knockout, and that is going to be my official prediction for this main event.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jamal Hill coming off of the Achilles injury,
Mm-hmm.
and that was
Right,
his
not even
last
to
fight.
mention the Hill's coming off the injury.
Yeah, 2023. That was his last fight, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, um, Pereira, we've seen him, lose his title defenses, Israel. But if he does defend this one, accordingly, you know, it'll definitely make me less, wary of guys over 35 defending the belt and being washed. But no, I'm ready to see these two guys go at it with each other. I'm curious though, because champions usually when the defense comes around, they're very calm, collected. Don't really want to show out too much because one wrong move you might get caught and
Right.
lose the belt. So I think I don't know if Pereira might be more conserved. It's hard to say, but for this one, yeah, I don't think we're going to see much ground game. I think Pereira is going to try and go for the knockout. Very hit Hills with some very heavy punches. So honestly, if I had to take a fighter on this one, I'd take Pereira just because I want to see how he does as a champ, and he is favored after all. But Hill would not be a wrong choice on this one either.
Yeah, I agree. And so that'll pretty much wrap it up for as far as breaking down the card goes. Real quickly, before we go, I do want to just do a little thing where we're both gonna piece together a little 5-leg parlay. We're gonna see, whoever's hits wins, but I just want to see who gets more picks right. So you can either pick straight up money line Kai, or you can do an over under on rounds. You can pick from any card or any fight on the card, any 5. Right? We're just gonna piece together a little 5-legger. For me personally, I'll go first on this one.
All right.
I'm gonna take Aljo versus Qatar over 2.5 rounds. I'm going to take Jiri money line. Charles money line. Do we know if this is 5 rounds or not?
I think this one will be 5 rounds.
Okay, this is 5 rounds, and I'm gonna take over 2.5 rounds on Gaethje versus Holloway, and then I'm going to take Pereira money line. So that's gonna be my 5. What are you feeling? I can scroll wherever you need me to go. What are you thinking for your 5 picks for this? If we have the same ones, it is what it is. I just want to see how you're feeling before we wrap this episode up.
Right. For me, I like to bet on money line straight. For me, I will probably take Aljo for the first one. I want to give him some faith. I want to see, what he's capable of. The second, I'm taking Charles Oliveira over Armin. And then for the Holloway and Gaethje, I'm taking Gaethje. I just feel like he's going to take Max down, or he might knock him with something. His kicks are intense. For the Zhang Wei Li and Yan, of course, I'm taking Wei Li. And for the title fight, I'm taking Pereira over Hill. I just want to see what he's capable of. But yeah, I think, I think both these parlays are solid. For the sake of Pereira and Hill, I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I like the way it's looking, and we'll certainly come back to it after the fight when we do our recap here on the channel. But Kai, as always, that's going to do it for us here. I want to thank you for coming on, for taking the time to be on here. I will, of course, see you again when UFC 300 ends and we are on here to talk. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today and watching the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe again. Comment down below what you want to see more of, because I'm happy to cater to you. As far as videos coming up, you should expect a mock draft video coming soon. You should expect an NBA playoffs preview coming soon, and probably some more interviews. Maybe depending on when all these spring games wrap up in college football, you can expect a state of Florida video too. But that might be early May. We will see. Got stuff coming for you though. Do not be worried. Thank you for the continued support, and until next time.